Good morning. I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and I'm here on April 9th at 10 a.m. St. Louis time to spend the next hour with you. Happy to answer any questions you have. We have a variety of topics to cover today. And let's start out with something fun, actually, because it's been a pretty tough week for the board game community and the board game industry. Let's start out with the chocolate of the day. Sometimes you all have to prompt me for this, but not today, because last night Megan came home with a giant piece of cake, really two giant pieces of cake from PF Chang's, the what they call the Great Wall of Chocolate, I think, something like that. It is a massive piece of cake. So I haven't had a single bite of it yet because she came home a little bit late last night. But I am very excited to dive into this big piece of chocolate cake during lunch today or after lunch today. So that is my treat of the day. Hopefully you are finding joy somewhere in your life right now. I'd love to know what the source of that joy is, whether it's games or a nice treat for yourself, good exercise, a sport that you're enjoying. In fact, a little sidebar about sports real quick. I follow soccer. I love soccer. I played soccer my whole life. And there was a big game yesterday between Arsenal and Real Madrid in the Champions League. And Arsenal had two of the best free kicks I have ever seen in my life, both by the same person who I don't think had ever scored a free kick before for Arsenal, Declan Rice. If you happen to like soccer and you want to see two incredible free kicks, go check out the highlights from Arsenal yesterday. Like, I don't even know which one is better. They're just beautiful, beautiful free kicks. So I see your comments today of support. In fact, I've seen so much support from you and the board game community over the last few days. I think you all know how big how much these tariffs impact companies. And it isn't just U.S. companies. Any company that sells into the U.S. is being hit with these tariffs, making selling in the U.S. either impossible or very difficult or just a losing proposition for a lot of companies. My best hope, honestly, right now with tariffs at 104% is to break even. If we can break even, and we're among the lucky ones, I think, that we could survive for a little while if we just break even. And that might be what we need to do for a little while. Susanna mentions that her joy and escape is Stardew Valley. I love that, Susanna. I want to hear more about your adventures there. Nicole says hello to Walter. Chad does too. Walter just made a brief appearance and now he's gone. He's now grooming after having a little water. Dominic had some joy from St. Louis Giants game, hike, and played some dice throwing. Good, nice, well-rounded weekend there, Dominic. I love that. Before I forget, I didn't put this in my notes, but we watched the finales for two recent shows. We watched the season 3 finale for The White Lotus, and we watched the season 1 finale for a show called Paradise. That's on Disney Plus and Hulu, and really enjoyed both of them. Very different shows, but both dramas with mysteries that are come to light at the end of the first season. And both are fairly short shows. I think The White Lotus was 7 episodes. Paradise was 8 episodes. So if you're looking for a good drama with a good mystery, I'd recommend either of those shows. I'd say both are very good. Our lunch show, our shorter show right now that is just about usually laughing, is Ghosts. We're really enjoying the latest U.S. season of Ghosts right now. Anthony's excited about spring break. He's playing Finspan and Apiary. That's awesome, Anthony. We also have Tokaido, of course, if any of you have received the Stonemaier Games version of Tokaido. Shipping should be complete. You may not necessarily have received your copy of Tokaido yet, but if you have ordered it, if you ordered it last week, you should have a shipping notification already. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on our version of Tokaido. Carol went to see the Minecraft movie, and she said the pure joy in kids for something simple is magical. That's wonderful, Carol. We haven't seen that yet, but would you recommend it for someone who doesn't know much about Minecraft? I am aware of it. I've never played it, but I know what it is. Would you recommend the movie after watching that for someone like me, Carol? Frank has had, let's see if I can get Frank's comment up here on the screen. Where is Frank? Here he is. Frank says, I hope you're processing everything in a healthy way. I'm trying, Frank. Frank runs the City of Games. He's had 3 excellent articles about the tariffs. Frank, wonderful articles, all 3 of them. And healthy way, that's a good way of asking it. So Frank, I woke up last night around 2:30 in the morning and was just kind of laying there thinking about 104% tariffs. trying to get my mind off that. That wasn't healthy for me to do, but I found it wasn't something I did intentionally, it just kind of happened. But I am trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle and finding joy in my friends, my family, and treats like the chocolate cake I mentioned. So yeah, trying to get by, trying to maintain right now, and trying to support other creators like you where and when I can. So I do know, Frank, I think my last 2 blog posts have been about tariffs. Reasonably so. There's a lot of information about there. And really my second post, I think, had to clarify a lot of misconceptions about publishers and retailers and distributors getting greedy about tariffs, which is not the case at all. None of us want tariffs. None of us are trying to profit off tariffs. We are going to lose money as the result of the tariffs. But tomorrow, my blog post tomorrow, I think I will intentionally not talk about tariffs. I have a different topic I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I'm going to mention it in today's live cast, but I'm going to talk about something that is just for fun and for joy tomorrow. And I'll mention that in a second. Anthony said, am I interested in seeing the Minecraft movie? I'm curious, but I know nothing about Minecraft. I'm curious if people would recommend it to someone like me, Anthony. Jeff says, thanks for being the source of information and encouragement. Thank you, Jeff. And Jeff also said, love the hoodie. If any of you have received your ambassador hoodie, I'm not wearing mine right now because I wanted to proudly wear my Stonemaier shirt, but I have my Stonemaier hoodie behind me here. If any of you have received it, let me know what you think. We've tried to make something that's really cold, comfy when it's cold and comfy when it's warm. And I'm curious if we pulled it off. Garrett, who originally introduced me to the Blueprints demo, says that the full release of the game comes out tomorrow, and I can't wait. Will you take a look at the 1.0 release? Garrett, Frank mentioned doing healthy things right now and getting my mind off things with a wonderful digital game. My favorite digital game that I played last year in Blueprints, I think sounds like a fantastic idea. And I've heard that the game goes much deeper than just the surface level core gameplay loop that I experienced last year in the demo. And I'm kind of curious about what that means. So I'm excited to delve deeper into the game. I definitely will be playing it. Joshua mentions Animal Crossing as his pick. Anthony says the Warriors win over the Phoenix Suns, some sports-driven joy. Oh, man. So Ian last week, I remember Ian popped in and said that he was without power last week for 4 days. So Ian, your power must have come back right after the Wednesday live cast last week or around then. He says it was a very bad ice storm that affected a lot of Ontario, Canada. Good reminder, Ian, that even when things are tough with these tariffs in the U.S., that things can be tough around the world in different ways. I'm so sorry you were without power and that you had that weather. There was a roof that collapsed in the Dominican Republic that killed a ton of people. There are natural disasters that happen all over the world. Myanmar is really suffering right now. So yeah, I guess in some ways we can maybe suffer a little bit together and try to uplift each other the best that we can. That's what I'm here for during this hour. That's what I'm here for in general. That's why I make games. I think games, even though they aren't something that we need to survive, I think they can bring us joy and help us in so many different ways by escaping a little bit, but also just connecting with each other when we're playing games, or getting our mind off things and feeling clever about something that we have control over by playing a game solo too. Yeah, it's not always about connecting with other people. Darius says, looking forward to hearing your thoughts on tariffs. I'm happy to talk about, well, not happy, but I can talk about tariffs today. It is the subject line that I put at the beginning of today's live cast. Mostly I wanted to mention that I have 2 blog posts that delve deep into tariffs. One was from Thursday, one was from Monday. The one on Thursday is loosely about why manufacturing in the US is not something that can happen overnight. It can't just happen. And in many ways, the types of games that we make can't be made in the U.S. And even if they could, it would take years and they'd be so much more expensive. We are not, I don't know, I go into that in the blog post. I also talk in that blog post about what publishers can do, what we have control over. And then on Monday's blog post, I talked about the math of tariffs. By the end of the day, that math became somewhat irrelevant because the tariffs were raised by another 50%. But the math is still there for people to understand how tariffs impact publishers, distributors, retailers, and consumers. Darius says, come join us at the Canterbury Gaming Convention in August of this year. Thank you, Darius, for that invitation. I really appreciate that. I am looking to go to more game conventions where I just go and get to casually play games for a few days. And by casually, I mean I don't have to sign up for events or anything. I can just check out a game from the Play and Win section or from the library and play with a wide variety of wonderful people. So So I'm trying to do that more, Darius. I don't know if specifically I can do something in August this year, but because I am planning to drop by Gen Con this year for a day. But I do appreciate the invitation, and feel free to always feel free to let me know about conventions where casual play is the focus of the convention. LB Jeeper says that their source of joy, their wife and dogs, the coming of summer, and my various hobbies, including playing and trying to design board games. That's a wonderful variety of things to find joy in right now. Heather says, had a successful launch to our new campaign at CTG yesterday, in spite of recent horrors going on in the world. It's a small win for us. Congrats, Heather, on the launch to your new campaign. I'm sorry, I don't know what CTG is. I probably will once you say the acronym, but what does CTG stand for? Dennis says, I just started watching the show Poker Face. That's a great show. Really enjoy Poker Face. I think season 2 is in the works for release later this year, maybe early 2026. May. Oh, I'm sorry. You said it in your comment here, Dennis. May. That's even better. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for Poker Face to come back. That's great. George says, I recently listened to the Rule Breaker Investing podcast that you were invited to some months ago. It was really good. I loved your advice at the end. Have less meetings. Yes, that is. I'm generally anti-meeting. I do most of my communication over email. And that said, I have found that I enjoy, we now do like weekly check-ins at Stonemaier Games, where on Monday we get together for about 15 minutes to share something personal and fun and joyous that we did over the weekend, to connect with each other. And then we talk about like the main thing that we're doing that week that is different than what we usually do that week. And I found that to be pretty helpful. Just a little connection point between my coworkers. But generally, I prefer not to do meetings. I rarely think that they're necessary. Bearwin Plays Games says they're getting their boss hooked on Apiary. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing Apiary with your boss. That's wonderful. Socktal says, are you interested in the Wheel of Time series? I've watched a little bit of the show. I've read 6 of the books, and I think that kind of covers my interest in it. I'd heard many people recommend the books, and so I was like, okay, well, I don't have a series right now. This was around this time last year, maybe a little bit before, and so I jumped into the books, and I thought I enjoyed them. But when I got through book 6. At that point, I felt like they were really, the pace of the books was really crawling along. I felt like they were stretching a lot of things out. And I know that's part of the value of the book series, that it's an epic scope. But at that point, I was like, I think I've gotten what I want out of reading these books. However, I want to know the rest of the story. So I read summaries for the rest of the books. And I also wanted to read Brandon Sanderson's finale. And so I did read the final book in the series and really enjoyed that book. And really, that book kind of covered all the things I needed to know about what had happened over the previous, 7 books. And so I was happy with that experience. So that was my experience of the Wheel of Time, and I enjoyed the way that I approached it. Yeah. Melissa says that Minecraft is a great escape. Jay-San says woodworking is a great escape. That's great too. The Havre Cardman, maybe first time comment here. Thanks for joining us. Said currently working on shooting some B-roll for Board Game Review. Needed some sound in the background and happy to have you go live at the same time. Good timing. I like your avatar there. That's a really beautiful avatar. Shazira says, I can't say, but relevant to the title and said tariffs, the CEO of Cephalofair put out a long update or article. I'll have to check that out. Thank you for mentioning that. I do subscribe to their blog, but I haven't seen that one in particular. I will make a note about that. Cephalofair Games. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, I'll do a few more comments and then I will. Yeah, it looks like I'm already behind on comments. Let me scroll through and look for questions right now. Let's see. I want to comment on something here to clarify. So GMoney14 says, I doubt the 104 tariffs will stand. There are a number of other countries that are currently in discussion with the Trump administration. If China is reasonable, they should come down. I want to recap, I think, very briefly what has happened in the last week, and really maybe going back a little bit before too. So leading up until February 2024, or 2025, this year, this current year, there were not overall. There might have been little tariffs here and there on specific goods, but at that point, there were no tariffs between China and the U.S. The president applied a 10%, eventually became a 20% tariff on all goods shipped from China, made in China, imported into the U.S. That is applied for the last 2 months. So leading up until last Wednesday, there was a 20% tariff from the U.S. to goods made in China. There were no tariffs from China to the U.S. That is kind of a big misconception because on Wednesday, when the president presented a tariff plan, he presented it as if there were tariffs, there were existing tariffs from the China to the U.S. However, that was not the case. As it turns out, that number was calculated based on the trade deficit between China and the U.S. That means how many goods people in China are buying from the U.S. versus how many goods in the U.S. people are buying from China. It's a trade deficit. Just meaning people buy different things from different places all the time. It is very different than a tariff. A tariff is a government-imposed tax on imports paid by the importer of record. Last week, the president applied an additional 34% tariff from the U.S. to China. At that point, China still had no tariff on the U.S. So that meant that the U.S. had a 54% tariff from goods imported from China to the U.S. China had no tariff. China came back and almost reasonably said, okay, if you're going to do that, we're going to apply a tariff too. We now are giving you a 34% tariff. I'm saying all this, and now, as of right now, U.S. has a 104% tariff on goods from China. China up theirs to match our increase to 84%. So the statement, if China is reasonable, they should come down. I just want to push back on that because the U.S. started this whole thing. Like the party that needs to be reasonable here is the U.S. The negotiation now starts with us, not China. And I think that's just really important to remember that we started this back in February. We escalated it, even with China not escalating it. We escalated it last Wednesday. And now we've just made things really terrible with 104% tariff. So I just want that to be remembered. I'm putting this down for history right now as for what actually happened, so we don't forget that. Okay, Carol's coming back with my question about Minecraft. She says, if you like something simply silly and enjoy Jack Black humor, it might be worth it. This is the Minecraft movie. So many people are into it at the theater that it could be an experience. If you found joy in the Mario movie, I might like it. That's a good point. That sometimes the collective experience of people's excitement at the theater is worth the movie, even if it's not a topic that I know much about. Thank you, Hilda, for saying hugs to the whole Stonemaier team, as well as all other publishers and creators struggling with the current situation. I appreciate you saying that, Hilda. I missed the Board Game Buzz video, Anthony. Thank you. Another channel. I don't know. Maybe YouTube isn't giving me these. I subscribe to Board Game Buzz. We work with Board Game Buzz, or we send them reviews. Let's see what they have to say. Okay, yeah, she does have a video. That's nice of Carly to put something out there. Joshua says, there's a Stonemaier hoodie. Yes, there is. It's made for Stonemaier ambassadors, but Stonemaier ambassadors now have had a week to get it if they really wanted it. So feel free to check it out. It's on our web store. Just search for the word hoodie and you'll find it. Question here. Drive-through cards can make games 100% in the U.S. Have you purchased from them? I have not made games or cards with drive-through cards at this point, but I am researching. I've reached out for quotes and am in talks with several different publishers in the U.S. to see what they can make. It will mean that we'll probably have to redefine the way that we design games so that we can make some of them in the U.S. It's just really sad to me because we've worked with Panda for 13 years now. We have a wonderful relationship with a company in a Canadian company with their main factory in China that makes wonderful games for us. They communicate well. They treat their employees well. They heed our environmental sustainability guidelines. They're just wonderful to work with. They're a trusted partner. We're not going to let that go. Like we're not going to let a trusted partnership just sail away just because of what the guy in the office right now is doing to the country. So yeah. Valerie got her hoodie. Thank you, Valerie. I'm glad you're enjoying the hoodie so far. I like the zipper in front too. You don't have to pull it all the way off. You can, it's easier to get off. Board Game Eric says that he says he got the hoodie, but Carrie, who is our panelist for Heavy Games, has already claimed it as her own. That's wonderful, Eric. Not for you, but for Carrie at least. Garrett says, I've seen you also wear a green version of the hoodie. Will that be available at some point, or was that more of a test run when deciding which color to go with? Originally, it was part of the test run, but we liked both colors so much that we're going to make the green hoodie our champion shirt of 2025. So we will have the green hoodie available for Stonemaier Champions and anyone who finds it on our web store later this year. Sawtall says, are you playing games with Megan? If so, have you heard of Split Fiction? It's a really fun two-player couch co-op game. Megan and I do play games together, but usually they're tabletop games. I haven't played any digital games in a while, and Megan hasn't played any digital games in quite some time beyond like Wordle style games. Okay, I know I'm behind on questions, so I am going to scroll down and try to catch up on questions a little bit. Here's a question from Nicole. While checking out the Stonemaier Games hoodie, I started wondering if there will be a Stonemaier champ. Actually, yeah, just enter this, Nicole. Good timing. Champion 2025 t-shirt. So it'll be the green version of the hoodie will be our Stonemaier 2025 shirt this year. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. CTG is Chip Theory Games. Thank you for clarifying that. Cristiano Machado says, what do you think about board game releases in economically developing countries? I see board games increasing a lot as a hobby in Brazil, but the prices are really high for the local community. I believe in bringing joy to tabletops worldwide. And so I hope that this continues to happen. I hope games continue to grow in developing countries. I think in those countries where the price of the game, especially a game that is made somewhere else, like in Brazil, you have really high import taxes, the equivalent of what we do for what we're doing for tariffs right now in the U.S., unfortunately, and that has caused board game prices to go way up. I think one of the nice things that you can do in countries like that, where maybe you can't afford a ton of games, I think that's a great place for board game cafes and board game stores to thrive, and even board game conventions, where you're paying a lot less to maybe experience the games instead of owning them. That's one of the things that I have hope for right now in the U.S. as well, as games will become a lot less affordable for a lot of people, and not just because game prices will go up, but because inflation is going to get really bad in a few months. We're going to see the prices for everything go up. We're going to see people have a lot less money to spend in the U.S. So where we choose to spend our dollars, I think that formula will change quite a bit. Okay, I'm just scrolling through looking for questions real quick right now. I will say, while I'm scrolling, let me talk about the post that I want to do tomorrow. Something fun that's not tariff related is this designer quiz that went a little viral over the weekend. And I included a link to that quiz in the description of this video. It's from Boardsy. It's kind of a web app for board game designers and creators. They put out a quiz to see let's see how they phrase it. Which board game designer is your creative soul twin? It is a really fun quiz to participate in, to fill out. It's in the description below. It looks like this. Let's see if I can share my screen so you can see it. Right here. Okay, here's what it looks like right there. Which board game designer is your creative soul twin? And it has questions like this. What's your design daydream? Seeing your game being played at a cozy game cafe by strangers. Chaining 7 effects in a single move and laughing like a wizard. Tweaking numbers until they click like gears. Creating a turn structure with 14 phases, each perfectly timed. That wasn't me. I don't love, or maybe you don't know, but I don't love games with a lot of different phases. But yeah, this quiz was a lot of fun to fill out. As it turns out, I'm a 56% match for designer Jamey Stonemaier, and then a smaller match for Reiner Knizia, which surprised me a little bit, but he does have elegant action systems, which I admire, and Uwe Rosenberg, who has been a great inspiration for me for many of my designs. But it's a lot of fun to fill out. And tomorrow, so I'm going to talk about this quiz and how it kind of went viral in a very small way within the board game industry, and how I think it's really clever marketing for Boardsy to create a personality style quiz. So I'm curious what you think overall about this quiz if you took it, and or what you think about using personality quizzes like this as a marketing tool. We do something, we not that it's gone viral or anything like this, but we do have something on our website. I'll show it to you in a second. If I pull up our website, we have something a little similar to this. If you want to do the Stonemaier version of it, and you go to shop and then go to gift guide, this is kind of our hidden personality quiz. It says, who are you buying a game for? A new gamer, intermediate gamer, or experienced gamer? So you click on one of these, and then it gives you another question. What appeals the most? Other worlds, cozy and comforting, construction, worker placement. And you click on that. And then you have one final question. Is this person, and you can answer this as yourself or the person that you're giving a gift to. Are you a curious creator? Are you a wine enthusiast? Or are you a heroic explorer? I'm feeling like a heroic explorer right now. You click that, you see the game, and the survey hopefully tells you, there we go, expeditions. We recommend expeditions. And we also recommend some other games if you're ready for the next level, if you already have expeditions. We have the expansion, we have Scythe, we have Tapestry. So it's a little personality quiz on our own website that you can take if you have fun with that. So I'll probably mention that along with the Boardsy quiz tomorrow. But in general, do you like that idea of having personality? Do you think it's clever marketing? Do you enjoy that when you fill them out? Chad says, will Stonemaier Games ever consider postponing the release of a game or games with the prospect of only breaking even if it looks like tariffs might be on the decline in a few months? Well, Chad, here's the thing. With tariffs in the hands of a single person who, I don't know, the chaos around the tariffs is something that we can't plan for. They could get way worse. They could get better. And it really depends on like the day that it happens, corresponding with the day that our goods enter the U.S. I believe that's the day that matters. I don't think it's the day that the goods leave China. I think it's the day that the goods enter the U.S. We already have a lot of stuff in production. Like all of our summer print run has been in production for months, and it's happening. Like those games are in production. We don't really have a choice. I mean, we have choices. We could eat all the costs that we've already spent on them, and or maybe try to store them in China, but we don't know what'll happen in a week or a month or tomorrow even. So there are many things that we could do, but currently what we're planning to do is proceed with all the things that we already have in production that we've already invested very heavily in. You can't just undo production and shift all that automatically to the US. So I know that's not what you're hinting at, Chad, but yeah. Currently, we are proceeding with things that are already in production. George says, we played our new Tokaido twice so far, and our 10-year-old won both by just going to the first available space every time. Please tell me there's a better winning strategy than this. I mean, it is a viable strategy, but in doing that, you are taking agency away from you're losing agency over what all the other players are doing. So I think the best strategy in Tokaido is sometimes taking that next space, but making sure that next space is actually good for your set collection strategy. G Money says, when is the anticipated launch for the other Tokaido line games and expansions? Probably later this year. It depends on a number of factors, including potentially tariffs, but the Tokaido Duo and the expansion and the playmat are currently in production or pre-production now. Chris says, so as consumers, will we see a 104% increase or will it be higher? It won't be higher, and it probably also won't be 104% increase to consumers. Check out my post. I haven't done the math on 104%. I was working with the numbers from a couple days ago. So check out my post on the math from Monday, and you'll see how the numbers kind of different ways of using passing on or not passing on the cost of tariffs can change the numbers in different ways. So on Monday, the way that I proposed it is that a publisher eats a little bit of the cost, and a distributor doesn't do the full normal markup that they normally do, and retailers also don't respond fully to the tariffs. They respond to the distributor cost. And if we do that, then a game that did cost $10 to make should go from $50 to $60 instead of jumping up by 50%, instead of going from $50 to $75. So there's a way that we can work with distributors and retailers to make sure that consumers don't suffer by the full percentage of the tariff in the end. George says, you mentioned that there's one promo Tokaido character that you can't make yourself. I'm just curious, why is that? This is the Felicia Day promo, and we just don't, it was a limited time promo with a permission from Felicia Day, and we don't have that permission anymore. I guess we could ask for it, but I was told by FunForge that is not an option. And that's fine. There's plenty of other characters, and we have the other promo characters to make. We don't need everything. Brennan's excited about Survivor 50. I'm excited about Survivor 48 that's going on right now, Brennan. New episode tonight. I'm excited about that. Let's see. Garrett says, is shipping to Canada and then fulfilling from there a possibility? I know there are already fees and increased last mile shipping considerations, but something to consider if possible. Garrett, unfortunately, it's still the importer. It's still the country of origin that matters. So China would still be the country of origin. And so we would still be paying the tariffs then. And we might even then, I would hope it wouldn't happen, but there are tariffs on Canada too. So that could make it even worse if we do it that way. I appreciate the creative solutions, but because the country of origin is not changing for a game that's already in production in China, that's what matters. George says, I really enjoy your crowdfunding YouTube video section. They are all short and bring a lot of value to very strict key points. Are you planning to add more mini-series to these videos in the future like you recently did over the last few years with the ones reviewing your book? Yeah, I did kind of a chapter-by-chapter book club for the book. You know, George, I appreciate you asking about that. I might. I think I made it through a lot of points for those videos, but I have a lot of blog posts that maybe could be useful as videos at some point. It's essentially just me, maybe not necessarily reading them, but pretty close to me reading these blog articles and maybe commenting on what all these older articles mean for the future, the present. So I might do that a little bit more. I appreciate the little nudge to do that. I'm certainly open to doing that, especially since I know people consume content in different ways. Not everyone wants to read a blog post. Sometimes a video is more palatable. Oh wow, Melissa matched 83% with me. I think you're more of a match for me than I am, Melissa, from a game design perspective. Appreciate you sharing that. Your inner child says, is the Party Simple game still open for submission? It's on our submission page, so yeah, it's definitely still open for submission. What's your favorite game using the Dixit style cards? Apple Pictures, Dixit style cards. Mysterium Park would be my favorite game that uses Dixit style cards, I would say. JM Revolution says, do you think it would be possible for an American-based board game manufacturer to thrive if appropriate investment was possible, of course? That's a big question. The short answer is there are currently board game manufacturers in the US that specialize in printed components. And with printed components, especially cards, they are feasible. It is possible to make them in the US because it's currently happening. We've seen that it's possible from Delano, from Cart Mundi. RD Forge is doing it on a startup level right now. Ad Magic as well. For all the other fun components that we enjoy in many of our games, they're currently not possible. And I don't think that I don't think it will be possible. I think it will be very difficult because the infrastructure is so ingrained in China. However, it's a big question. I think it's a good question to ask. But the other part of and so I would recommend that you read my blog post on Monday. In that article on Monday, at the very beginning, I linked to an article that talks about why manufacturing in the US doesn't work and probably can't work. But if it is going to work, it's going to take years. And by that point, with tariffs like this, so many small and large businesses in the US and beyond, any company that sells a lot of goods to the US will be out of business. Like they will not survive the time that it will take to ramp up production in the US. So I think we've seen from the behavior over the last week that this isn't about US manufacturing. It isn't about fentanyl. It's about something else. It's about negotiating an ego and things that have nothing to do with looking out for US businesses and US consumers, unfortunately. Yeah, so I don't think we're even going to have the opportunity to properly answer that question. Also, in my blog post on Thursday, I linked to an article about a company that tried to start a full-fledged manufacturing facility in the US, and they talked about how and why it failed. So they tried, and it didn't work out very recently too. Jason says, do you feel like you were in an echo chamber? Do you get feedback that is outside the box enough? It seems that the gaming industry gets themselves in an echo chamber. It's a fair question to ask. I try not to put myself in an echo chamber. And you can see that with the conversation around tariffs over the last few days. There are racist comments that I will remove, but there are also comments that disagree with what I'm saying either in a respectful way or a way that at least isn't outright racist or xenophobic. And that's okay. That's okay to put those types of comments. And also ideally fact-based. That's even better if they can be fact-based. So I don't think so. I think we kind of make our own echo chambers based on how we choose to interact with each other. I think people know how to disagree in a healthy way, and we often just choose not to do it. And when we choose to do that, to interact with it, to disagree in a healthy way, then we get to see other points of view. And when we don't, not so much. On a game design level, I try to surround myself with people who are willing to disagree with me, largely in terms of coworkers and playtesters and shareholders as well. Doesn't mean that I will go with their recommendation, but I listen to it. I absolutely listen to it. Yeah. Okay. Zaktal says, is there anything people outside the US can do to support publishers inside the US? And I will emphasize here that it's not just about publishers in the US. It's about any publisher that sells a lot of goods to the US. It's the publisher, the importer of record, who pays for the tariffs. So this impacts any company. I do appreciate you sharing your empathy for publishers in the US and any publisher. And someone asked me this yesterday, and here's what I would say. Cash is going to get really tight along every level of the supply chain right now, and it will hit particularly hard in a few months. So I would say if you have $200 that you want to spend on games over the next few months, I'm using a hypothetical number there, but say it's $200, I would recommend that you spend half of it going directly to publishers, especially. Yeah, I'm gonna emphasize this a little bit because I think crowdfunding will continue to happen, and that's fine. And support crowdfunding however you want. But I think publishers that have in-stock inventory to sell spend some of that money directly from publishers on their in-stock inventory. And then spend the other $100 in this $200 example, spend it at your preferred local game store or game cafe. Support both of those. In supporting retailers, you are also supporting distributors, which is part of the supply chain. And by supporting publishers, you're also helping their direct cash flow as well. So that would be my recommendation. I am totally open to other points of view about that, but I think that is one approach to budgeting over the next few months to support the entire supply chain of both publishers and retailers. Brendan says, what's one thing this week that brought you joy? I have been playtesting my asymmetric game about battling seasons, and I'm looking forward to Survivor tonight in between talks of tariffs. One thing that brought me joy this week, I had a lot of things that brought me joy this week. I enjoyed the season finales of Paradise and the White Lotus. I'm enjoying watching Ghosts. Got a good hug from Megan this morning. That was wonderful. Walter sat on me last night, right in the middle of the night, but that's always nice. Got some tummy time. I played. What did I play this past weekend? I didn't play disc golf because it was a very rainy weekend. But I went to the farmers market. I love our local farmers market here in St. Louis, the Tower Grove Farmers Market. I had a wonderful commander draft for Battle of Baldur's Gate for Magic the Gathering. It's the first time I've ever drafted for commander and had a great time doing that. And what was the other game I played this weekend? I'm blanking on it right now. Oh, I played Eternal Decks yesterday, a game that I knew nothing about, but a friend brought it over. We played this Eternal Decks game, and I had a lot of fun with that. I feel like, and I played Clank Legacy. Clank Legacy was the other game that I played over the weekend, and I had fun playing that as well. Yeah. Also ate some good food. I made, I don't want to say I completely made it, but I spruced up some easy to make ramen, some instant ramen. I spruced it up with some fake meat, some mushrooms, some veggie broth. And I got creating something from start to finish within a few minutes and having it taste really good. There's something really satisfying about that. So that brought me a lot of joy yesterday as well. Okay, let's see. Frank West says that he took the designer quiz. He got 56% Jamey. That's the same percentage I got for myself, Frank, and 11% Elizabeth Hargrave. I think Elizabeth was a little bit lower on my list, but I did match with her a little bit. I think she makes very cozy, comfy games, and I answered a few questions along the line of cozy, comforting. Garrett says, what about assembly in Canada? Now we're talking where an area that has some possibility, Garrett. The trouble with the tariffs is that and I would love to see this change, if something has to change about the tariffs, that they aren't on the materials, but currently they're on the materials and the final products. But I see a future where materials are made in China, but the assembly, as you say here, the final product is put together in the US or in Canada or someplace else. I think there is a future for that, but the tariffs do not support that. And that is a very possible future if the tariffs are not on materials. But if the tariffs are still on materials, then that makes it very difficult. The other key to that puzzle, Garrett, is boxes. I have quoted in the past for boxes, two-piece boxes, the standard game boxes that we are used to seeing. And they are incredibly expensive to make in the US because they require 3 different machines. There's a machine that prints the paper here. There's a machine that applies it to the, I believe there's maybe a different machine that cuts the paper too. It might be the same one. And then there's a machine that applies it to the cardboard. Oh, and the third machine is the one that actually puts together the box itself before the paper is applied to it. So 3 different machines are required to make the boxes that we know and love for board games. So either as consumers, as gamers, we need to change what we perceive as a reasonable box for board games. We might have to be open to other types of boxes, or manufacturers in the US need to have that investment, or Canada, anywhere, in the machines that make these boxes, because they are currently, I would say, the biggest impediment to manufacturing in the US. Because if you, I'll leave it at that. Brennan says, I wanted to ask who would be your top 3 picks for Survivor 50? Brennan, that's a great question. I am terrible at remembering specific people from past seasons unless they won or there was some controversy near the end. I think what was it, 2 seasons ago, there was that finale where there was a guy who ended up being the co-host of On Fire with Jeff Probst. I'm forgetting his name. This is how bad I am with remembering this type of thing. But his victory was kind of stolen by a jaded juror. I would love to see him in that season. That said, I do want to say, even though I think his victory was stolen, I think the person who did win, I want to say like Kelsey, maybe, I'm forgetting her name. She was awesome. She was fantastic. She also deserved to win. So in my opinion, I think there were 2 viable winners that season. It was just unfortunate that a bitter juror took the win away from someone. So I would love to see him in it. Everyone else, I think Jonathan was like a beast in challenges back in like 41, 42. I'd love to see him make it to Survivor 50. It's hard for me to remember the rest. Let's see. Chat says, does Panda have plans to handle tariffs in the future? And Panda is a manufacturer. They are not responsible for tariffs. They are not the importer of record. I think Panda has been for quite some time looking into manufacturing or assembly in the US or in other countries. But that process takes a lot of time and deliberation to get it right. So they've been kind of anticipating something like this happening and have been planning for it, but they don't have anything that I know of that's firmly in the works at this point. I don't want to go deep into this comment, Jim, but this is what I'm talking about with the facts. Jim has a comment about child labor and sweatshops with little to no environmental regulations. Jim, I work with Panda game manufacturing. I don't work with China. I work with Panda. And Panda does not use child labor. Panda heeds our environmental guidelines. In fact, they go above and beyond what many US manufacturers would do. And they treat their employees really well. So I think stop looking at it from a country basis and look at it on a manufacturer by manufacturer basis. I don't work with China. I work with Panda. And Panda doesn't do what you're saying there. And if you are going to talk about child labor, I've seen people talk about slave labor and things like that. Stop. I mean, it's racist. It's xenophobic. Don't do that. We can be better than that, Jim. Yeah, be better. Andrew says, are there any Stonemaier games in digital development currently? I would love to be able to play Tapestry or Space Beast with my friends around the world. So Tapestry is available on Board Game Arena. You can play that right now with friends around the world. Apiary is in development on a platform. I can't really talk about which one yet, but many of our games are in digital development. But like many things, including manufacturing, digital development takes a long time. So we do have a number of games in the works, but they will take some time for the developers to get them ready. Michael says, does more regional fulfillment save companies anything? Like shipping to Canada for Canadian orders and retail, skipping any cross shipment from the US? Yeah, Michael, this is something I talk about in Thursday's post. It is fairly standard for companies to ship directly from China to fulfillment centers worldwide. We've been doing it at Stonemaier Games for over 10 years now. When we ship from China directly to Canada. We ship from China directly to Australia. We ship from China directly to Europe, and then we ship directly to the US. So it's not like most companies are shipping to the US and then shipping everywhere else. The only companies that are doing that are those really small companies that can't fill a shipping container from China to Canada or to Australia. And those are the companies that are going to suffer the most right now. Okay, Valerie says, I read a really interesting post from a professor at Indiana University on distributive bargaining, Trump's main method versus integrative bargaining, most countries' style, and how tariffs being distributive bargaining only works if there's only one distributor of said good, which speaks to the manufacturing you mentioned. There aren't options in the US currently, so the negotiations will not be successful. On an international level, it isn't about winners and losers. Distributive bargaining, if you continue your comment, I'll find it in a second here. Garrett says, is there a link to the personality quiz I'm talking about? Yeah, it should be in the description of this video. If you can't find it, let's see where I can find it. It's under Boardsy. Boardsy is BOARDSSEY. It's the Boardsy. Which board game designer is your creative soul twin quiz? That's the quiz I'm talking about here. James mentions it too. It should be, correct me if I'm wrong, it should be in the description below. Here, Gerald actually puts it right on the screen. A link actually worked. Thank you, Gerald. Kenzie, I'm sorry, not Kelsey, Kenzie. Yeah, thank you, Joshua, for remembering that for me. Anthony says it really well here, Anthony. Thank you. Anthony says, it is important that we support each other no matter where we live or what our governments decide to do. That's a beautiful way of saying it. We're all just people. We live in different countries, but we are all just people. I bet there are at least a dozen countries represented on this video right now, and we get to be people together. And I think the tariffs draw so many lines where there weren't lines, and we don't need to draw those lines. Garrett pointed out, yeah, I forgot about this, but Mike White, who created and produces and writes a lot for the White Lotus, was on Survivor many years ago. Yeah, I remember that. He was fun to have on Survivor. I think he was maybe also on Amazing Race. Charlie, thank you, Joshua, for remembering Charlie's name as well. Kevin says, I wanted to get your take on the Joe-Eva interaction on episode 4 of this season of Survivor. I was a crying mess, just a beautiful display of humanity, in my opinion. Talking about human level stuff here, Kevin. I love it. Yeah, I talked about this on my personal blog recently. So just a brief thing that happened on Survivor was there is a contestant this season, Eva, who has autism, and incredible incredible person, and she confided. She was pretty worried that people would take advantage of this on Survivor. Not that Survivor is that type of cutthroat, but there is. I don't know. I can understand her concern for it, and so, but she told one person. She told. I get emotional here thinking about it, Kevin. She told one person named Joe. She trusted a guy named Joe. And during a challenge where she wasn't on Joe's team anymore, they had been divided. Their team's been divided up, and she wasn't on Joe's team anymore. She really struggled with a challenge, and she got past it, but had in what she called an episode, and in front of everyone, and she had told Joe. Getting emotional again here. You got to watch it. You got to watch this moment. It's a beautiful moment on Survivor, where Joe comforts her in a moment where they're not on the same team. He comforts her, even, and this goes back to what we're talking about right now. Like we're different countries, but they're not on the same team. But he gives her a big hug, gets her past this episode, and Eva then also has a really beautiful, eloquent, sweet speech, and it's a testament to how helping someone out, even in a small way, a hug. Can lead to such beautiful moments, because not just the hug was moment, but because that hug got Eva past the episode, she was able to say something in such a beautiful, eloquent way. It was really beautiful. I recommend watching it. It's on my blog, my personal blog, JameyStegmaier.com. Kevin, hey, you made me a crying mess here too, but yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. Mark says, "Is there any plan to add Tuscany to viticulture on Board Game Arena?" I have given Board Game Arena permission to put Tuscany on Board Game Arena, but it's just a matter of them actually doing it, and they haven't done it yet. Anthony says, "Have you celebrated the 5 years of Rolling Realms?" You know, I guess we're kind of celebrating that coming up soon with the 80th playthrough. We have Game 80, the live play of Game 80 coming up soon, which will be a celebration of all the Stonemaier promos. So we now have enough promos that are based on Stonemaier games that we can do a full game of them. That's coming up soon. Anthony, yeah, I'll make sure to kind of celebrate the 5-year anniversary of it, at least for the creation of it at this point too. Chad says, "What games do you feel like have the most paths to victory?" I know you try making different strategies when you play games. The most paths to victory. Well, any victory point game often has a lot of different ways of getting points, so a lot of different paths to victory. One that comes to mind, though, is Seven Wonders Duel and Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth, because they have such distinct paths to victory that, but it's like, it's you're doing the only way to win is by accomplishing one of these 3 distinct paths. And so I think that's worth calling out too, amongst the sea of games, including many of mine that have just a lot of victory points. Rob says, "Are the hoodies available in the European store?" Yes, we ship them worldwide. Certain sizes may not be available, but if you search for the word hoodie in any of our web stores, you'll see the hoodie. You should see the hoodie there. Chad says he just started getting back into disc golf to pick up his first Stonemaier disc. Excited to try them out. Yeah, I hope you get an ace with them. I want to hear about every ace from a Stonemaier game disc. A Stonemaier game considered a disc golf bag for their fleet of discs. I don't think we're going to get into the bag business, Chad, because there are a lot of companies that already specialize in that, but I appreciate you asking about it. Kevin mentions Ludofact. That is true. Ludofact is a board game company. However, I went to their website just yesterday and I could not get their website to load. So I don't know if they are still an operating manufacturer in the US or if maybe it's just a website issue. I think that CGE bought the facility for Ludofact in Europe. I could also be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that was them. Mark says, "Are there any other plans for Rolling Realms Digital?" I am hoping that the developer adds to it over time. I don't think we'll aim to add like all promos there or anything like that, but doing little updates from time to time would be wonderful. I don't think it's been a big revenue generator for the developer, so I can see why he's not really focusing that much time on it right now, though. Richard says, "Am I looking forward to Geekway to the West?" I very much am looking forward to Geekway to the West. I think badges, maybe they're still on sale for this upcoming convention in St. Louis. It's in mid-May. but they're coming to a close. If they are, they're coming to a close in the very near future. So if you are curious about coming to a game convention, I highly recommend you go to the West. It is one of these conventions I talked about earlier where you just come and play games casually. You don't have to sign up for anything. You just pull a game off the shelf and you find someone to play it. And I'll be there looking to play games with a wide variety of people. I'm really excited about it, and I hope to play games with you there if you're attending. Kevin says, have you watched The Traitors? I love The Traitors. Yeah, I've only watched the US version so far. I have a video about it, Kevin, actually. I've started to do videos about these reality competition shows that I love. In fact, I need to do a Top Chef one soon because the new season of Top Chef started. But I do have a video about The Traitors, and I have a lot of thoughts on it in that video. So maybe check out the video on our YouTube channel. Okay, Zaftal clarifies that CGE and Ludofact are jointly operating a box manufacturing facility in Europe. Thank you for clarifying that. And Kevin confirms that Ludofact in the U.S. operational. Kevin, I think you're saying that. I wonder why their website isn't working then. I need their website to work so I can get in touch with them. Let's see. Jackie. Oh, Jackie, one of my favorite illustrators. She says, popping in for the first time to say, thanks a bunch for your blog post on the tariffs and this video. Watching this from the UK, it's been really helpful to get an idea of what's going on with the industry without spiraling into panic. Much love from across the pond. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for everything that you've done for our games. I'm just going to be an emotional mess now, given these tariffs impact so many people around the world. It isn't just those of us in the US. Yeah, thanks for hopping in, Jackie. Mike says, I joined in not long ago, so not sure if it's been addressed. Do you think it would be a smart move to only doing digital versions of games until the tariff situation stabilizes? Mike, I talk about this a little bit in Thursday's post. I do think digital games can augment tabletop games, but there's a lot that goes into it. A, they take a long time to develop. B, they take a big upfront investment. C, they don't replace tabletop games at all. Like I know a lot of us play games now on Board Game Arena and things like that, and that's great. But to me, it does not replace the experience of getting a game to the table. And last, the revenue that they generate for a board game publisher is so much less than games themselves. So I think it is a very small piece of the puzzle, and it is nice for publishers who already have that puzzle in place. But any publisher who doesn't, I think it's kind of too late, at least in terms of weathering the current storm of tariffs, unfortunately. Chet says, really nice seeing your new podcast, Positively Board Games. And I also appeared on the Board Game Design Lab recently. Yes, we do have, maybe 2 or 3 episodes live of Positively Board Games, a new podcast that I'm filming with, recording and filming with my friend Mitchell. Episodes go live every Thursday. Really enjoying it so far. So I have a new episode going live tomorrow about it. Garrett says, did you look into apply for the Netflix Willy Wonka reality show? I didn't. I did look into it. I did, but I'm just kind of focused on everything at Stonemaier Games. Not. I don't want to own a chocolate factory. Basically, is what I'm getting at. Okay, Kevin says Ludofact USA. Let's see if the website works. LudofactUSA.com. Yeah, it's not working for me, Kevin. LudofactUSA.com. Yeah, not working for me at this time. Cat Master Jess says, is it generally possible to have a surge of sales years after the release of a game, or are the highest sales usually closer to the release date of the game? It is very much possible. In fact, I would say most evergreen games, I would say every evergreen game, most of the sales don't happen for the first print run. They happen afterwards. We've seen this with Scythe, with Viticulture, with Wingspan. The release date is nice. It's good to have a good, strong opening, but it's the sales that come later. The sales that come later are much, much higher than those initial sales. I did realize that I haven't really looked at my topics today all that much. I did a video this past weekend about delightful unboxings of games, the joy of unboxing a game for the first time and experiencing that joy. And I did have a little question. Yeah, it's a little bit too late for that question. I'll do it next week. I have 2 questions that I missed out on because we got talking about other things, which is totally fine. That's what this is for. Off the cuff, just seeing where the conversation goes. David says, when will we see expansions for Tokaido? So there is one combined expansion for Tokaido. The 2 original expansions combined into one box probably coming at the end of 2025 from us. Chris says, yeah, new podcast. Yeah, it's on our YouTube channel if you want to watch it on the YouTube channel, but it's also available on places like Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. It's available there too. Nicholas says, if you woke up tomorrow and Stonemaier Games had been inexplicably erased from existence, but everything else about the world as it remained, including Tariffs, what would you try to do for a living? Still tabletop games, something else? It's a big question for the last minute here, Nicholas, but I do like the question. What would I do for a living? I don't know. I love this job. I love being here for you. I love being here for my coworkers. I haven't really thought about what I would do instead. I would try to do something that would bring people joy. I know that, but I don't know what I would do. Yeah. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions before I head out. I see a lot of, I haven't highlighted these comments, but I'm reading them. I see a lot of support and a lot of empathy, a lot of human level empathy. And I love seeing that, whether it's for me, whether it's for everyone else in the gaming community, the industry. I love seeing that. Thank you for sharing that in the comments here. Garrett asked, did I finish the Hunger Games book? I'm almost finished. I have like 10% left. I'm at the very end of the latest Hunger Games book, which is excellent. I really, really like it. Thank you, Garrett, for reminding me that it was coming out. Chris says, if you had to choose a world to visit in real life from a game you made, which would you choose? Probably it would be a civilization that I built from the ground up in Tapestry. So not like a specific world, but a Tapestry built, created world. I wanted to give people that feeling of creating their own world, their own civilization from the ground up. So I think I'd go with something that I made from Tapestry. We'll end on that question. If any of you want to answer that in the comments, either that or Nicholas's question about jobs too, feel free to answer those in the comments of the YouTube version of this video. Thank you all for joining me today. I just really appreciate it. It's been wonderful to spend this time with you, and I'll be here next week as well. In the meantime, I'll see you on the YouTube channel, on the blog, everywhere else on social media. Have a great day. Have a great week. And find joy in something. I hope you find joy in something today, even if it's a tough day in other ways. Take care. Bye.